Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar titled Future of MedTech Trends and Opportunities for MedTech Engineers, hosted by VIT Vellore in collaboration with the Hindu Education Plus as part of the ongoing Career Path series. The medical technology is evolving at a rapid pace, driven by innovations in robotics, biomedical devices, AI, and advanced imaging. These developments are creating new career pathways and global opportunities for engineers, researchers, and aspiring professionals. And so, in today's discussion, we'll explore emerging technologies shaping the medtech landscape, career pathways for students and young professionals, global trends, and the skills needed to succeed in this rapidly evolving field. We are joined by four distinguished experts: Dr. Geeta Manivasagam, Dean of Shine VIT Vellore, Dr. Joseph John Wittegattel, Professor of Practice VIT and Research Professor Michigan Tech University, Mr. Ketan Jajal, Founder and CEO Jajal Medical Services, India and 3D Surgical USA, and Chandresh Palaniswamy, Research Scholar, Biomedical Engineering VIT. Welcome, speakers. And audience, you're welcome to post your questions in the chat box throughout the session. We'll be taking them up during the Q&A towards the end. Let's begin with Dr. Geeta. Before she begins, a brief introduction for our audience. Dr. Geeta Manivasagam is a globally recognized researcher in biomaterials and implant technologies. She serves as the Dean of the School of Health Sciences and Clinical Engineering at VIT and is a founding director of the Center for Biomaterials, Cellular and Molecular Diagnostics. Her work spans implant development, surface engineering technologies, and translational research. And she has published extensively, collaborated internationally, and received the Fulbright Nehru Fellowship in 2023. Dr. Geeta, over to you.
Thank you, Radhira, and very good afternoon to one and all. While I'm talking, I'll try to share my screen. So welcome to the young innovators and viewers. Looking forward to hear from us. Why should you consider MedTech as your career path? Okay. Mm, I'm trying to just start my presentation. So why should you consider? Let me start with some interesting facts about India first. So India boasts a youthful population over the 650 million under the age of 35, who is full of energy and ideas. Alongside, we have a rising age population or demography looking forward for good healthcare and clean environment. Also, we have a very robust growth of GDP of 7%. So all of you know, India is the largest population in the world with, fourth largest population in the world. Yet, India is facing a huge burden in the healthcare sector due to the rising cost, and especially the rise in the non-communicable diseases, also due to the divide between the rural and the urban. So what are known? You'll be surprised to hear that 63% of the death in India are due to non-communicable diseases such as heart disease, strokes, diabetes, and cancer. Um, in spite of all this, it's not only focused towards the one place. Like India's population is divided into urban city and the rural areas, and the rural people are not able to have a good access to the medical technology, and hence they have to travel to the urban city and end up in expensive treatment. And why the healthcare is very expensive in India? That is because all the diagnostic instruments, the CT scan, X-ray, MRI, and all small diagnostic instruments, as well as the cardiovascular stents, knee, hip implants, all are imported. So 75% of all the medical devices are imported. And it's a very major thing which has a rise in the cost. And what India is looking forward is to develop technology or to indigenize the technology so that we can have all these instruments which is suitable for the Indian system and affordable so that everybody has an equal accessibility to the healthcare, not only equal accessibility, affordable healthcare, and also quality healthcare. So this is the pressure India is having to produce. So how do we overcome these challenges? First, we have to detect the disease, then we have to prevent the disease, or if the disease progresses, then we have to treat the disease. There are a lot of advanced technology for treatment which is emerging, like immunotherapy, gene therapy, etc. However, let us start with how to prevent the diseases. And prevention is very important with this huge number of population so that we don't end up in treatment and incur a lot of cost. What are the things which are going to play an important role in having a good prevention is telemedicine. All of you have witnessed in during COVID that telemedicine played an important role where you don't need to travel towards the hospitals or clinics and talk to the clinician through the teleapp and have some basic treatment so that your disease does not progress very fast. Also, as the buzzword now is AI, the artificial intelligence and machine learning, which is going to help us in detecting the disease very early. For example, if you somebody is having an infection, your blood is taken and it has been the culture is done for more than a week, and it takes a long time to see identify which bacteria is causing that, and the clinician has to start the treatment very late. So this is by the time the disease progresses very fast and the infection grows. So we have to have this. If you same thing, if it is being detected by AI within a day, the treatment can start up much earlier. And once, as I said earlier, the rural people are not having access to all this technology. So we should end up in having a very low cost machines which can fit to the rural areas. And for example, there's solar power diagnostic kit which will not depend on the failure of electricity in a rural area and which will more depend on the solar power tele health habit. I'm sure like many of you are listening will be wearing a smartwatches which will record your vitals, but this is also again an expensive. So there is a lot of technology needed to develop wearables or biosensors which can detect your vitals very fast. And this all can be achieved only with one uh, collaboration, that is an engineers and clinicians. As an engineer, you can develop technology, but unless you understand what is the thorough mechanisms or the biology or the disease progression, then only we will be able to develop these things. So there is a urgent requirement of collaboration between the engineer. So if you see that there is explosive growth in the medtech sector, which is projected to be USD 17 billion by 2025. And this has led to an increased number of startups. There is a boom in startups. Over 10,000 health tech startups have come in India, and it's around projected to be USD 820 million funding in 2025 alone. So our government is also taking several schemes to be pushed to have an affordable healthcare, such as Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, PLI schemes to support the industries to have a low interest and high production. And many medical device parks are being created throughout India to develop technologies where you can go and have your own startup and develop technologies. Um, So, what Vellore Institute of Technology is doing has played a pivotal role in developing a new school called School of Healthcare Sciences and Engineering. The idea was conceived in 2022 and the first batch was inducted in 2024. The school is called a Shine. It's one of the India's newest and most innovative school dedicated to integrate engineering and healthcare. So it is offers a first of kind BTech in healthcare science technology, designed to bridge medicine, engineering, data science, and medtech innovations. And we have a very highly interdisciplinary team, and we have devised the curriculum in such a way like 40% of the teaching is delivered by the clinicians who are here and the industry professionals so that they can get a real world relevance. The school also, in case you're trying to pursue your higher studies in the healthcare sector, we have a very good environment of centers. And one such center is Center for Biomaterials Cell and Molecular Theranostics, where you can have a short projects to large projects and can work on innovations. Apart from that, we have a very good ecosystem. VIT has a technology business incubator, innovation council, and industry hospital partnership, which is in and around the India. Also, we have signed an MOU with US Upstate Medical College, New York, Binghamton University, George Mason, so that you can have a medtech product development from classroom to clinic. So Shine also aligns with India's mission to develop graduates or prepare graduates for affordable healthcare innovations. Shine as a unique role in training clinicians. So we just no not only train engineers, we have a unique role in training the clinicians because clinicians have to understand the engineering innovations. They are all used to a certain conventional practice. So how to incorporate the AI, how to use the robotics and all this. And so we are into it, to training the clinicians also. Thus, Shine prepares the healthcare engineers for the future. I would like to brief on few labs which will be of your interest. AR, VR, that is augmented reality and virtual reality. We have created a digital anatomy table, or this is kind of a training table where we do not use a cadaver, or we can, the clinicians, all also the students can be trained use things. They can plan the pre-surgical models so they do not try to understand after opening the human body during in the surgical plate. Also, this AR, VR, augmented reality VR lab, which has been created in VIT, helps in rehabilitation and therapy. People who suffer from strokes or pain distractions, or all this can be applied through this VR AR technique. And also, the clinicians are helping us to develop a new technology called multimodal imaging. Dr. Joseph will talk more on that in order to visualize the integrated view of CT, MRI, and surgicals. And the more interesting lab is the more brain-computer interface. So you produce a lot of electrical signals in the brain, and if this can be communicated to the computer, and whatever you mean, people who are, have some disability to speak or move, if they can think, and that will be displayed in the computer. It's called human-machine interaction. It also help in the cognitive and mental health applications for detecting cognitive load, stress, etc. And also in the neurorehabilitation, for example, a stroke rehabilitation or a spinal cord injury, a patient with them can use this brain-computer interface to enhance their performance. This is another which area, as Adira told, robotics. And robotics is going to play a huge role in the future, where the robot surgery, where a person in US can perform a surgery in a theater, which is the patient is in India. So such a things are going to evolve with robotic surgery. It is almost now there in few hospitals in India. And robotic hands and robotic legs are kind of an artificial prosthesis. People who have an ability to move their hands can try to get into their day-to-day activity with this robotic hands, etc. Apart from that, the lab automation can be done with the help of robots so that we have less manpower and a very quality research output. And also, the hospitals are now thinking about automation, like robots for medication delivery, sanitation, telepresence, logistics, etc. So you have a huge opportunity in different sectors and industries such as hospitals, and clinical engineering divisions, pharma, like many pharma industries are in India and biotech industries are in India. And all the IT sectors have an healthcare division, and you can get into an IT sector through learning this engineering program. Regulatory affairs, which is very, very important. As the new technologies are evolving, we need a regulatory body to regulate the quality of the instrumentation. So you can work as an engineer and the regulatory affairs. So we have a n number of roles for the engineers who take this course as an their undergrad or a postgrad program. And there are domains which are emerging, as I told, like AI-driven diagnosis, wearable technology, surgical robotics, telemedicine, and digital innovations. So India has a very good global MedTech hub, and we are advising by 2047 we'll be leading in healthcare sector, and we'll have affordable, accessible healthcare for everybody. That is called as One Health, and the future MedTech engineers should get mastered in topics like device design, AI diagnosis, and surgical robotics. So Shine is an interdisciplinary school which helps in this model with global collaboration and startup creation and clinical relevant engineering curriculum. Thus, I conclude that healthcare engineers are central to next gen medtech. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Geeta, for uh, de- putting into perspective of such a detailed, vast subject, as well as emphasizing on the importance of One Health as well. Let's move on to Dr. Joseph now. Before he begins, a brief introduction for our audience. Dr. Joseph John Vetukatli is a distinguished clinician researcher With expertise in cardiovascular imaging and congenital cardiology, he serves as a professor of practice at VIT Velo and as a research professor at Michigan Tech University. He's also the founder and director of the Institute for Advanced Medical Research and Innovations. His work bridges clinical practice and engineering, contributing to major advancements in imaging technologies and collaborative medical research. Dr. Joseph, please go ahead. Doctor, you're muted. Could you please unmute yourself?
Can you see my screen? Hello? I have unmuted.
Yeah. Could you please go full screen? We can see a screen.
Thank you. Once again, I want to thank Athira for chairing this session and giving us this opportunity. And I want to thank Gita and VIT for giving this opportunity to discuss about the new frontiers in biomedical engineering and what is the new world out there for the new graduates that are going to be coming out from VIT, especially from Shine School. First, I will just briefly talk about the organization I am representing. I have two hats here. One is as the professor at VIT, as well as the director of IMRI. IMRI is a not-for-profit organization which was started only to bridge the gap between the knowledge in the engineering side and the medical side so that we can bring people together and then start innovating and protect the intellectual properties of individuals and bring new technologies to medicine. In this attempt, we have collaborated with VIT, especially with Shine School, and we have other institutions we are collaborating with, like the St. John's Research Institute, Sri Chitra Institute in Trivandrum, Heartex Hyderabad, Citra, Michigan Technology Institute in USA, SMT, and many other institutions which are sharing our ideas and supporting us in this. This all started with everything. As a physician, for me, it is the patients that is the driver for what I do. When patients come with problems, quite often how a doctor manages it is by seeing what the doctor has learned and how it can apply to the specific problem of the patient. But innovation comes only when the patient comes and your list of knowledge do not support the problem that the patient is coming with. So you need to think about how my patient is going to be helped. And that's where a dedication to patient comes. And that's where you start thinking. And in this regard, we helped many patients. Actually, while I was in the US, we developed new 9 devices individually to help patients. And this then, for example, our first patient was this lady, Mary Boswick, who had end-stage heart failure, not suitable for heart-lung transplant. And then we invented a device called atrial flow regulator. Now this is CE marked and it is trialed in the US. It is helped many patients, including in India. Then came another patient who again with a problem, who then thought there was no solution. That led for us to invent a new device. Similar to this, another lady came again with intractable heart failure. We invented a new device. But then we need strong engineering support to create new devices. We need the federal agencies to support the innovation. But then comes a problem where when you innovate, these are very expensive. It doesn't come to third world countries. So how can we make it affordable? Then you have to improve the engineering standard of the country where you want to work in. You have to collaborate with the medical engineers. So this led us to do many innovations. For example, here you can see a boy here in the corner. He had 5 open heart surgeries by the age of 3.5 years. And then he was told nothing more can be done, and he was in palliative care. At 13.5 years, he came to me in a wheelchair, not able to do any physical activities. So we invented a device to help this patient, and he's still alive and he's doing wonderful work. So I thought if we could translate this engineering skills and medical knowledge to develop something in India and help patients in India. We have 1.4 billion people, and we have very good technologies. We have good brains. But if, as Professor Geeta said before, about 70% of the medical technologies we actually import. And when we say we are developing some devices in India, most of them are copying the Western devices, not innovating. And that's what our focus is. This is one of our innovations where we innovated a new device to close different type of holes in the heart. Now this device is approved by the government of India, and it is being manufactured by SMT, and we expect it to come to the market in April this year. This is another device we developed to support patients with very complex heart disease where you will need an open heart surgery and has to, 3 to 4 hours of operation. But we have devised this new device, and it can go through a keyhole surgery to the neck, and it can be placed. The first procedure took only 35 minutes, and the patient could go home the next day. So these are the innovations we are talking about, which we established by making the 3D printed model of the heart defect and then placing such a device in the heart model. And here you can see after 6 months, the hugely dilated heart has shrunk and the device is sitting promptly. And we developed a 3D visualization system, as Geeta mentioned. And you can see the device sitting in the heart and diverting the flow coming from the lung into the heart where the mixing is stopped. And what we are trying to do now is to actually collaborate with institutions. You can see VIT's name in most of these things that we are doing. We are doing a cardiac automated compression device. We have started we did a hackathon, and subsequent to that, we have patented it, and going through different ways of assisting patients in acute collapse by automated cardiac compressions, drone assisted delivery, VR system for understanding and training, looking at negative pressure ventilation, coordinated care through app, and how to deliver oxygen to these patients in an emergency basis. We are also looking at various devices that we can develop by using the synergy. And each of these aspects, the students will be involved at every stage. If they want to learn more about it, they can come to the institution and learn with us how to develop these devices. We have other organizations who are helping us, like Srijit Rai Tirunal Institute in Trivandrum is one of the pioneer institutes have agreed to take postgraduate students for further training, or we can collaborate between training. We have introduced 2 PhD programs in VIT. So we are establishing a center of excellence in association with Shine VIT, and we are planning to develop skills among Shine students in transitional medicine and teaching them about patent rights and patent protection. We are sponsoring PhD programs and master's program with collaborating institutions. We plan to give internship exposure to international facilities when it is needed, or when there is conferences. We want to give, we have a program on advanced imaging. We can do 3D visualization, augmented reality, and virtual reality platforms we have created. And we are developing new devices. We have the first fully functional braiding technology we have just shipped to VIT, to the Center of Excellence. So we look at collaborating with students to develop newer programs, and in future we look forward to get collaboration. Not only collaboration, we will need support. As I said, IMRI is a not-for-profit organization. Most of the funding is self-funded. And I would also like to say that we've got the first CSR funding from South Indian Bank today. So we look forward for supporters to both from the student side or from professional side to in any way to encourage this collaboration and grow so that we can bring new technologies to the institution and to India. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much. And we truly hope that, just as you highlighted, these technologies reach the people who need them the most. Now we move to Mr. Ketan Jajal. Before we begin, here is a brief introduction. Ketan Jujal is a pioneer in the medical application of 3D printing and personalized surgical solutions. He's the founder and CEO of Jajal Medical Services in Vadodara, India, and 3D Surgical in the USA. His companies have supported over 4,000 surgeries worldwide, offering custom implants and surgical planning using titanium and high performance polymers. He works closely with surgeons, hospitals, and global partners to drive innovation in patient specific healthcare technologies. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Athira. Before I go into my presentation, it's an honor to be in this webinar, and I want to talk a little bit about the MedTech education and why it is so important, and how, like Dr. Geeta mentioned, is how this is a new age education and why is it different, right? So if you think about it, like when we grew up during our days, there were really two things we were all taught. Okay, either you can become a doctor or you can become an engineer, right? Which was the standard. While the new age is system driven, right? So it's no longer an engineer or a doctor. It's a together as a single one entity, which is the human body, right? So if you look at a human body, it's a system, right? It is a system made of so many things. For example, if you look at our brain, it's an electrical systems. There's so much relevance on the nerves that Dr. Joseph talked about. If you look at heart and lungs, it's a lot of chemical and gas and fluid transfers that are happening. Like a heart becomes our pump, and then there is a respiratory which kind of carries the oxygen. So there's a lot of chemical engineering, there's a lot of fluid mechanics that goes into this, right? And then the mechanical engineering. Now that you might think that how is that integrated into this, right? So if you think about it, think about our body without bones, right? We cannot even stand, right? So the musculoskeletal system, the bones, the joints that actually become kind of like the bearings of our body, right? Those are the aspects that become key for understanding and making sure that human beings are able to move around freely, right? And then there's also even in optical engineering where they can see endoscopy cameras and you can understand what's going on in a very minimally invasive way, so that you're not cutting open a huge incision, and instead you're having this tiny little hole, like Dr. Joseph mentioned, and you can go in and do what you need to do and come out without really damaging all the tissues that are going to have a problem, right? So medtech innovation is the need of the hour. And I think it is the future and how you build it. And sooner you start, and sooner you start, the better visibility you have, the better understanding you have. And it is really the next phase of education where we feel like human bodies needs more and more what it is done today, and trying to solve those problems. So now I will kind of jump into talking about what we do as a company, and what exactly that we do. So I will just share my screen now. So our 3D Surgical is our digital arm, and Jajal Medical is our implant. So this is a patient who was in wheelchair for 3 years, and she could not walk. And most orthopedic surgeons, they said, sorry, we cannot do anything. And then she went to a renowned surgeon in Bangalore, and the surgeon basically said that, okay, this is exactly what your model looks like. That's your hip that is all broken on the femur side, and we're going to need a custom implant. And and that's where we kind of came in. Now this patient, after 3 years, is not only walking, she's walking straight. And that's because we were able to use all these technologies to kind of build, right? So we focus on personalized surgery, but again, there are so many different aspects of the new age that kind of goes into it, right? So it all starts with, say, CT scans, like how CT scans are made. There's a lot of material science that goes into it. There's a lot of image processing. There's a lot of electrical engineering that goes into it. Once those images are created of the CT scans, we have software engineers who would actually do image processing and create these 3D models from these CT scans, right? Again, we have another type of software engineers who work on the AR, VR side of things, and they are able to create visualizations that are very easy for surgeons to understand, and in 3 dimensions that they can really walk around and even show it to the patient, right? So these are the digital aspects that get into what we do every day. And then using 3D printing, we make custom implants, and those implants perfectly kind of fit because they were made for that patient, right? So again, we're building a lot of different solutions, different products, in the implant side, in the software side. I will just quickly show you one, which is our US FDA product called My Segmenter. What it does is, it loads the CT scans or MRI scans of the patient, and it creates the exact true replica of what exactly the patient has. And then these files are exported into a 3D printer, and then the surgeon can hold those models in their hand and even explain it to the patient what exactly the deformity is and what he's planning to do. Right? Then we have other cloud-based surgeon communication solutions where the surgeon can look at the 3D model onto the browser and they can understand the anatomy. We also have like surgical planning. So, one of the things that you find is, oral cancer is very prevalent in India because of all the tobacco chewing. And you see that the solutions available today are very limited. So we took a very serious stand to kind of build our own cloud-based planning platform, this world's first cloud-based planning platform, where we are able to provide these very detailed planning for a surgeon so that they can really do a better job and get the patients back to where they should be. Similarly, we're developing these cloud-based systems, surgical apps, as well as understanding of the anatomy through 3D, right? So now you can have the surgeon and the patient look at a particular anatomy or their own model and then kind of have that discussions. We're also setting up these 3D surgical AI labs across, where the hospital will have the entire system available built in within the hospital ecosystem, so that when the patient is there, they can actually get these physical models that they can see and understand and explain it to them. Here's an example of a surgeon before he is going into the surgery is looking at the exact anatomy of that patient, how the patient has that model, what is the plan, how are we going to kind of do the whole thing without even starting the surgery, right? So this is outside the operation theater, right? So these, and then, now we have these learning tools, and VIT is one of the pioneers in this, where they have this AR VR technology, which allows engineers and students to learn full body in very detailed way. So today, it used to be that, you have to open up a cadaver to learn, but now these virtual systems allow students to really learn every little aspect of the anatomy, whether it's a brain, whether it's a heart, whether it's a respiratory system, whether it's a, musculoskeleton. You can learn about them without even, moving outside within the campus there. And then, of course, what we do every day is custom implants, where we create customized implants for the patients that perfectly match and then help them, especially when there is no similar solutions available. So in a nutshell, I think future really belongs to MedTech, and it is something that we are really proud, and hoping to have more and more students to join the MedTech innovation world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ketan. That was pretty insightful. Shall we move to Mr. Chandresh Pallanchami now? Let me introduce you to the audience. Chandresh Pallanchami is a research scholar in biomedical engineering in VIT, specializing in advanced human-machine interfaces and rehabilitation engineering. His work includes developing real-time brain-computer interface systems using EEG and gaze tracking, as well as VR and mixed reality tools for rehabilitation. He is currently working on the AI-driven EEG-controlled robotic arm for personalized upper limb rehabilitation. Chandresh, over to you.
Thank you, Atira ma'am, for the introduction. I'll share my screen now. So, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chandresh. I'm a PhD scholar in VIT, pursuing biomedical engineering. So today I'll be exploring MedTech in a student's perspective. As a student, I'm also a student who's just recently graduated my bachelor's in biotech, and I'm just 4 months into my PhD journey. So I have some very recent experiences as a student, which I would love to share to you guys. So first, what is MedTech? So MedTech is basically a combination of 4 major fields. can say biology, engineering, computing, and healthcare. So in biology, you would understand how the human body works and how diseases are developing. So in biology, you're trying to understand what is the problem within the body and what is the clinical problem which we're trying to solve. So we're setting the problem at the biological level. Next, we move on to engineering. So we're converting these clinical challenges into some physical solution, such as a functional device, tools, or systems, which we can then apply back to solve the biological problem. Now, to help with this, we are going to use some form of computing, which is the intelligent aspect of MedTech. So, computing or computer science or programming, they can transform these biological signals and medical data into meaningful insights. So we can extract data and apply it to create a solution. And that solution applies in healthcare, where we are understanding the real world needs, the patient needs, such as how Ketan sir and Dr. Joseph mentioned previously on building implants for both in the heart and for hip implants. So this is what MedTech is. So it's an application of all four fields to design technologies that can diagnose, treat, and enhance human health and impact uh, and have a positive impact in the human health. So now I'll share my journey of how I got into uh, my PhD or biomedical engineering. So initially, I did start with biotechnology in bachelor's, where in biotechnology you would learn about how living systems works and cellular systems works, and their applications in the industrial or scientific processes, such as you can think about production of vaccines in the pharmaceutical side, in the food industry, in the environmental industry. So there's a very wide application of biotechnology. But then I felt that in terms of directly impacting patients or humans, it lacked some side over there. So I decided to explore other areas. And during my third year, I did some projects in the neurorehabilitation lab, which was introduced by Shine back in 2022. So that was during my third year where I approached the lab and did a few projects in that lab. And then now that has led to me joining that same lab again for my PhD, and I'm pursuing my biomedical there, where I'm doing research on brain-computer interfaces. Now, breaking it down, brain-computer interfaces in biomedical engineering is also interdisciplinary, has many interdisciplinary aspects, such as biology, where we need to understand the brain signals, when they are generated, why they are generated, at which periods, like when we're imagining something, when we're moving our bodies, certain signals with certain characteristics will be generated by the brains. So we can take those signals and we can decode them. And this is where the programming or computer science aspect comes in, where we're using machine learning algorithms to decode such signals to classify exactly where those signals originate from or why those signals originated from. Now, after we are classifying these, we want to apply those signals into some control system. This is the engineering aspect, where now what I'm working on is using such EEG signals to control a robot, like we can see in the photo here. So here is an EEG cap, which records EEG signals. They're being transferred and decoded in real time to control a robot, which can be used for various aspects, such as assistive devices or for rehabilitation purposes. So in this image, you can see an example of an assisted device where a person who has stroke or have some form of paralysis within their arms, so they're not able to physically do some activities. So in those cases, we can use these technologies that can help assist their daily living or daily activities, such as picking up objects, moving around, and interacting with people around them. So this is the gist of what brain-computer interfaces are. So now I'll explain what students can expect in MedTech. So MedTech is not something that is very specific to one field, like as I just previously explored. So therefore, students from many backgrounds can enter this field. So if you're from biology, physics background, computer science background, or mathematical background, like especially students in their 12th standard who are looking to looking or exploring options in their careers, I think this is a very good option for them to come into MedTech. And furthermore, it has a lot of hands-on problem solving, where we are working on real issues in healthcare, where we can build, we can work on real problems. For example, like I'm working on stroke patients, working with stroke patients. We are with patients in real patients, and seeing how the technologies which we're developing are going to help them. Will it help them, or how we can develop them to make it better for them? So that's the next point, which is students who enter such medtech fields will be exposed to high level of technologies. For example, AI, VR, AR, and using EEG. We have EMG also, which is measuring the muscle signals. We can use muscle activity to also control the same way EEG signals are used to control. And furthermore, like I said, we can also work with patients and doctors in real time and discuss and collaborate in order to develop a much more holistic system that stroke patients or any other like disease patient can work with. And since we're directly impacting uh, such patients, I think it gives a very meaningful work for as a student. Like we are theoretically in schools or in college, we will learn a lot of theoretical stuff where we're just understanding how things are working. But now we are going to apply those what theoretical knowledge we have into a real life scenario, so we can see the actual impact of what we've learned and what knowledge we have acquired over time in real time. So final tips and takeaways. MedTech is not only one field, it is a bridge between many fields. So there's no limitation on depending on your background. Like I switched from biotech to biomedical engineering, even though it's a slightly different field, the skills are still transferable, and it'll be uh, easy to go if we are curious. So that's the second point. We need the curiosity and willingness to learn, even to learn new things. So we're taking skills from different aspects of biology, physics, computer science, and combining them into one holistic medtech device or solution, which can be applied to patients. So that is the third point, where we can see the real impact of our work on patients. And finally, MedTech it's a space for creators where anybody who's enjoying building, designing, coding, programming, experimenting, this field is specifically for them because there's a very wide range of opportunities available since it's a highly interdisciplinary field. So, yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Chandresh, especially for detailing on your journey and more on the tech. Shall we move on to the questions now? We already have some questions from audience. If you have not yet dropped in your questions, please do send them in the chat box. I'm starting with this question. How great? Okay, my question is, how can working professionals get into this new area, specifically as a working IT professional? Shall we take that? How can working professionals get into this area as a working IT professional that someone's asking?
Yeah, I think it's possible because we encourage a part-time PhD after your BTech or a master's. It depends, and there are different criterias for after BTech or MTech, and there is a deep technology PhD. I think this kind of professionals can enter into that kind of category where you are going to work on a deep technology as a part-time PhD student and learn.
Shall we move on to the
I think maybe I will add with Geeta. I know people may want to get into, but there should be a question that leads them. What is that they can contribute, or what is the question they need an answer? And then come with a specific aspect. We will find a solution, or we will try to find a solution together. If it is just general curiosity, it is good. But there may be an area that they can go for, but I am interested in people with specific aspects that they feel they can strengthen or contribute so that we can build something together.
Understood. Another one is, what gaps in the industry can young innovators help fill?
Maybe I can answer this one since I present the industry. So, we have these segregated disciplines, right? We have mechanical engineers, we have software engineers and all. I think one of the key aspects is, if you look at the surgeons, we see a lot of surgeons doing a lot of surgery, and then that details are never understood by, say, a mechanical engineer, right? So when a mechanical engineer is designing something, and if he doesn't know how a surgical procedure is done, then he would design something that would not even fit inside the surgery, right? So that is a gap we see as an industry. And that's where these kind of disciplines where you have multidisciplinary approach, where you're looking at everything in a broader aspect, really helps.
There's a follow-up question asking, what is the biggest gap between what students learn in college and what the medtech industry expects, and how can we bridge it? There is a question, a follow-up.
Maybe I can start answering that
Yes, please.
because I feel frustrated by this because our students are very good at learning theory. They may not have ever seen the material they are working on, but they will, give you all the explanations that is possible for or whatever materials they are learning. But practical aspects are missing. For example, I'm looking for somebody who worked with nitinol. 3 years I'm hunting, and I haven't yet found a person, an engineer who can confidently say I can shape set a nitinol system, or I can laser cut a nitinol tube to a shape that I want. So there is plenty. I think we are theoretical physicists or theoretical engineers. When it comes to practice, we are lacking. That's where we have to build.
There's a question for Chandresh asking, what skills or exposures helped you the most? I know you briefed on this, but if we can elaborate, because there's
Okay, so mostly it will be, since biotechnology lacks some programming aspect to it. It's a very, even though there is a bioinformatics side, it doesn't require a hard code programming uh, technique or skill required. But then when I moved into biomedical engineering, where I'm developing machine learning algorithms, or sort of a user interface for the person to look at, it requires some coding language. So that is the technical skills, which we're requiring some form of coding to apply that. And maybe in terms of soft skills, I think, but soft skills can apply into all types of fields, regardless of which like technical field we're going into. So mostly for me personally, I would say it's the coding aspect. And one more thing is the problem solving. Like, obviously, when I've been very strong in my theoretical side, but then now we're doing practical applications. That's the research. We're seeing how I can develop some form of technology which can help real patients. So we need to find practical problems and form a solution specific to those uh, problems that would help with patients. And these things we can't really come across unless we're physically getting hands on and doing it. We cannot learn this theoretically in the classroom. Like, it's difficult to do that. So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
yes, Dr. Geeta. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to add, like this program, the program what we offer is trying to bridge all these gaps and see that the students are industry ready, meaning like since the clinicians and industries are there in the part of the teaching, they teach them with the case studies, and also the second year we send them for a hospital interns and as an internship as well as industry internship. It's a must, it's a part of a credit, it's a curriculum, and so they get an exposure and understand how things work in a clinical setup as well as in an industry setup. And the projects are co-designed along with the industries. For example, with Dr. Joseph, with Dr. Jajal. So they, I mean, it's they start get trained from the very beginning of the first years. Apart from that, there are a lot of researchers who are working in the medtech problems in VIT, And so we have a startups along with the students. So there is a possibility of students having a startup. So these startups incubated in VIT gives an exposure for them how industry works to some extent.
Adding on to that, Dr. Gita, would you elaborate on how academia industry collaboration accelerates self reliance?
How it, I mean, we are just trying to bring industries as a part of the curriculum. So it starts from the beginning. From the board of studies, all the industries are there as a part of the board of studies. So the curriculum is developed with their consultation so that we know what are the current demand and what is the future demand. So that's how the curriculum is devised, and and also it's in modeled in such a way that only 30% is project of the theory component. So all the theory is also taught with case studies, and it's more of like medical programs where they teach case studies. So we also don't we integrate biomechanics, fluid dynamics, etc. Different courses along in the only with the very pure direction of medical industry and clinical aspects.
Shall I move to the next question? Okay, there's a question asking what are some ways medical students can be involved in medtech during college? MBBS students can be involved in medtech during college, considering we are not studying biotech or medtech courses specifically.
I think MedTech MBBS students their project durations, which they can they can start working with us in the projects along with our engineering students, uh, and co-develop some technologies with the students, and also learn with the help of the engineering schools. So it can be executed only through the implementation of projects. Dr. Joseph, do you want to add something in this as a clinician?
No, it's a very interesting question and very encouraging that there are medical students interested. But quite often the problem is they are between their studies and they have so many exams and things. So though the passion is there, it doesn't materialize. And there is only a short time. And they have a guide. I am saying it from a practical sense. There is a guide in their institution who would be guiding them, and then that person will have specific interest, that interest has to meet with the institution's interest. By the time the discussion comes, the period is over for the student. So unless there is a pre-consulting agreement between a medical college and an institution like ours, and say that we have x number of students which would like to take part in a research, and then we plan in advance and then take students on their merit and passion to take this, and then it will happen. Otherwise somebody come and asking, and by the time you work out a solution, the person has already passed or has lost the interest. So that's where I would stop.
Yeah, quite an interesting question. In fact, there are students from across specialties asking. There is one from mechanical background asking, currently working in industrial robotics domain, but I want to make career in healthcare robotics. How can I get started? I think I'm not sure what kind of jobs available in this domain. Also, what kind of skills I need to build to get started.
Yeah, it's very interesting because we need mechanical engineers in all aspects, all the different departments, either it's industry or hospitals or in healthcare science. So, how could they collaborate with us? As they can, if they are okay, they can join us in a projects because we get funded projects. We look for postdoctoral fellows with certain backgrounds who can execute the project. So they can join as a senior research fellow and execute the project. That's one thing I feel it can happen. Or they can be sponsored by an industry to work with us and co-develop some technologies. After
I
they
think I may add to say that jobs are created. It is not that you look for a job. If you are good in your field and you have the talent, there are hundreds of people wanting to take you and do work with you. The problem here is that without a clear objective, you study a lot and then say what I can do with it. And that's the problem here today, because I spoke to a professor or the of a reputed IIT, and they said 80% of our students take bank job. So why would you spend 4 years in IIT and spend all your brain and energy to become an accountant in a bank? So the problem is The underlying problem is with you. You have to decide what talent you have and how you would utilize to better the community and yourself, and then there are plenty of job. The job, when you study something and try to match what makes you the maximum money, then neither you get satisfied nor your job is that is what is your job. So job is a totally different kettle of fish. So I will leave it there.
I will take one more academic question and then move to medical. For MedTech product development internships, what basic tools or software should we know before applying? There are more than two questions on this, so I thought I'll take.
Maybe I can
What
answer
basic
this.
tools?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the one thing, like I would say, Dr. Joseph mentioned, right? You need to have a passion to do things, right, and contribute. So when you are in an internship program, we have interns that we take many times, and we they are given a task and they have to do it with a lot of passion, right? And as they learn, they will get more chance to do more and more complex things. But I think what you need to do is, in an internship for an industry, I think probably the only thing you need to do is bring passion. And then if you are very interested, you take ownership of the tasks that are given to you, and then participate with the professionals within the organization. It really is fruitful for everyone.
Moving on to the next. This is, may I know how long will it take from the preclinical studies or animal models up to the translation level of these medical implants? When it comes to the body's rejection of foreign material, need more trial and error approaches maybe? Is another question.
Maybe I'll answer that question because it is to my specialty. Basically, the rule of thumb is that out of 10 concepts that you work, one will come to fruition. That concept to come to translation and to implantation in patients will take about 10 years. So unless you are committed for a long time and ready to feel frustrated, there is no easy solution. That's why you heard Kedan saying passion. I say from our Sanatana Dharma, I'll say it is dharma. You need to know what is the innate ability that you have, that you're born with, and that is what you will fulfill the best by growing up. And for that, it needs a strong conviction in your abilities and your strive to get there. And that's why this 10-year is important. And then coming to that is a personal specific. Coming to the generality of it, most of the things we have biocompatibility tested. You know how the in vitro studies work. Then you take to the animal model. Then you have to go through the hoops of the regulations of ethics, and there are regulatory bodies, and each regulatory systems are different. It is difficult to go through everything systematically here, but that's why I said if you are starting on something, think about 1 in 10 chance of success and 10 years minimum to bring it to fruition.
There's a question for Chandresh. What challenges do students commonly face entering this field?
I would say they might feel overwhelmed because now we know that biomedical engineering or some medtech aspect is a interdisciplinary aspect. They might feel that they need to learn about everything from all the fields. Then only they can contribute productively within the medtech field. But I would say that is not necessary. I do not know any form of programming language before I entered this field. All I knew was some form of biology, and I had to just learn little skills one at a time. So I learned through projects, doing projects. That's how I first entered it. So for that project, what is required? I'll learn those little amounts. And then we can, after the success of that project, we can move on to the next one. We'll just start expanding slowly and bring in more knowledge and and like how to apply them in a practical aspect. So I think this is over time, a person can become an expert within the medtech field if they slowly take a slow approach, learn one skill at a time from each of the different things, depending on the project, apply them, execute them, and then move on. So that's my.
We actually out of time, but I'll take two more. There's a question asking, are there any existing government initiatives that support MedTech innovation in India?
Yeah, I
Do
think
we have any existing initiatives?
a lot. Mm. Jajal, you can tell about the initiatives by
There are many initiatives that are there. So there is a BIRAC program, there is a Department of Science and Technology, there is a Ministry of IT even has a AR VR program for med. So there are multiple aspects where you get the start and kickoff is actually easy, right? So if you have a vision, if you have a dream, hey, let's do this, you will get funding, right? There is enough things. You'll get 5 lakh, 10 lakhs of funding. You can start working on your research. But, like Dr. Joseph said, this is a long journey, right? And it's really after 2-3 years when you need to kind of really put in a lot of efforts is when the real test comes on to, are you able to kind of achieve what is needed? But I think there are enough government supports that are there, which you can apply, and universities also have these aspects there.
So shall we move? Sorry. Yes, doctor. No,
for
please.
development for indigenization and also reduce the import taxation and also for the production. So there are different schemes. So the industry, and there are a lot of funding for startups now. So by different funding agencies.
Shall we move to a final question?
Yes.
What mindset should MedTech professionals adopt?
Open to learn.
Maybe I'll try to answer that. I
Yes.
always say this again and again and again. There's a famous poem by Kalidasa. He said, Arasikeshu kavitha nivedanam me shirasi malika, malika, malika. He said it 3 times. Please don't give the fate of teaching who are not interested to be taught into me. That means you can only teach, you can only train those who are interested. So my only request is those who are really interested can go long way, but only go with firm commitment and passion and interest. Then you can make big changes. But without that, I always feel that I should never have that opportunity to teach somebody who is not interested.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you all our speakers and also the audience for such interesting questions. So today's discussion highlighted the rapid evolution of the medtech sector, the demand for skilled engineers, and the exciting opportunities available across research, industry, and innovation. We're coming to the end of this session. Thank you once again to all who joined and to the speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.